So now that we have a budget figured out and we know where our money is going to go, we have a plan for how we're going to spend our money, whether it be putting money aside for retirement or charitable giving or paying for houses and so on. And by the way, this particular graph I have set up over here, this is like a pie chart. So if you want to see what percentage of your money is going towards, say, your car versus your house, you can see it pretty quickly. And retirement's a nice little slice too. Now that we have this in place, we need to figure out, is this amount of money right here, this $470 a month, will that be a good amount of money to save each month so we can retire in, say, 30, 40, 50 years? And to answer that question, we're going to go to a neat website called bankrate.com. And here it is. It actually has, if you want to see the website over here, it's bankrate.com calculators. If you want to Google and look this up, just type in retirement calculator. And then once you're here, there are a couple of assumptions, there's several assumptions you have to make. The first is we're going to assume that you're just starting out, so you're about 24 years old, and then you want to retire on age 65. We're going to use the same number here, $29,000 that you had from Excel, and then let's see here the retirement savings. Let's come over here to Excel real quick. We're going to see that if you are saving, or if you make $2,438 a month, and you're able to put aside $270 for yourself plus $200 for your employer, you get a total of about $470. Then you are saving essentially 19.3% of your net monthly income. So we're going to come over here to this calculator. We're going to type in 19.3% of our net monthly income, and then we're going to assume we don't have any retirement sitting aside somewhere. One thing you're going to find is very helpful is if you can get to where your car is, you have a good reliable vehicle and it's paid off, that goes a long way towards helping out with your finances once you get on your own. And then income will expect to increase, say 2% per year. Don't mess with this so much. Then you have your income requirement required at retirement. What this means is say for example you live very comfortably on $29,250 a year, like net income, and then you go out to eat once a week, you have like air conditioning blowing really cold, you have cable TV, and we'll just assume that you can live off of that. Now when you retire, can you still, if you're willing to live on this amount of money and have that same lifestyle, you'll probably get by with say anywhere between 80 and 100% or so, barring weird things that come up in the future. And so if you want to have like an identical lifestyle, you can probably say 100% what you're going to need when you retire. Keep in mind you drive to work and back, so when you retire you probably won't drive to work and back because you don't have to drive as much, and those kind of things. So play around with that, and then you have how long do you want to retire or be retired. And look over here at this graph. Here's a graph over here, and all this number here does, it extends how wide the graph is. So for example, if you think you're going to live to be 105, you can plug in say 40 here, and the graph is now going to go from 0 or 25 years to 105 years. So most people won't live that long, so I'm going to go ahead and just make this say 35 years, so we live to be 100. And then some of the really important things to consider is going to be what your rate of return will be before you retire. Typically when you're younger, they say, the collective they out there, say you should be a little more aggressive with the way you invest your money and try to get some more rate of return. So for example, what this means right here, the 10%, is that if you put aside $100 a year and you get 10% return, at the end of the year you're going to get the $100 there plus 10 more dollars, so for $110. And then, as if you're familiar with the idea of like the power of compounding interest, the $10 that you get every year, then the $10 starts giving you interest as well. You have all this money. So the thing though is 10% is a pretty aggressive rate of return. So a more conservative rate, if you want to kind of play it safe, a lot of good stocks out there that give you a rate of return of around say 5%. So I want to go with say a 5% rate of return. That's a very modest rate of return. You can go more aggressive if you want, but be really careful with this assumption here, because you may think you'll get an average of say 7 or 8 or 9% of rate of return, but that's more difficult to do unless you have someone who's really good with money helping you out. Then when you hit retirement, what typically happens is people will want to be more conservative, like less risky with how they're investing their money. So this will probably decline a little bit to where they're not trying to make more and more money. They're just trying to keep up with inflation and not let inflation eat through their nest egg. And then what is inflation going to be? Historically, it's around 3.3%. I really hope it doesn't get much more than that because, well, I don't know. There are some countries that have bad economic issues and their inflation rate is crazy. Think back to World War I Germany, or post-World War I. That was really bad. And the idea there was suddenly a loaf of bread which cost, I don't know, let's say $1 to buy, suddenly cost like $100 to buy. It was it was really bad for them. So here is the other things to consider. Will you have Social Security? Be very careful when you think about this and how you want to plan your savings. Those of us who are younger, say 30s and below or so, we are not going to have the same Social Security benefits that are being given out today based on the way what's being told to us, and Social Security is running out of money and they have to cut back on benefits and all that. So for example, I can click on this and you'll see that we don't run out of money until we're about 95. It's based on the graph here. Also it says right here 95. That helps you. If you happen to be married during most of this time, you can click on this, and it just so happens that married people tend to get more Social Security. I'm not sure why that is, but there it is. So I don't know what you want to assume there. For this argument, I'm just going to assume it's no Social Security involved, simply because I want to see how much I can do on my own without having to rely on somebody else to give me a check when I'm older, because that can always be taken away from me. So here are some assumptions. Make sure everything here is reasonable. So for example, if you say, hey, let's close this down so I can see the graph. So right now at age 65, we're going to retire age 65, and then we're start eating through our money. So we run out of money around age 80. Oh great, we ran out of money. I don't want to die before I'm 80. I want to live past 80. So a couple options you can try is, what if I live to be, say, what if I retire when I'm 67? What happens? It actually buys us about 3 more years. That's pretty good. What if instead of saving 19%, what if I were to save, say, 21%? What happens? And that wasn't helpful. What if I start earlier in life? If you have kids who are able to put money aside even earlier, that'd be great, but that typically applies to those who are your strong middle to upper class incomes, which, by the way, I've seen a lot of people out there who are in the strong middle to upper class income brackets, and their parents haven't trained them to save their money well. So if you are in that bracket, you have a distinct advantage over the rest of us in that if your parents can train the kids when they're younger to save money even earlier, say start at age 21, it adds a lot more comfort to you when you're older. So you can play around with this, and the important thing here is you want this to hit to where it's around, say, 95 or whatever you think you might die. So we're going to go ahead and keep playing with this until it's 95. I'm going to go ahead and throw down, say, 25%. That's pretty bad. You have to work to age 70. And now we're at 98. So let's go ahead and say we're going to retire when we're 98, or die when we're 98. So I'm happy with this. I have to put aside 25% of my income. Wow. All right, so here we go. This is just an assumption for sake of argument, by the way. So here we go.